Very few flowers, still a few. It was all red. The waning full moon was delightful the last few days. The full moon. Very cloudy this morning on the horizon. A feast of colour here in these bougainvilleas. Try and get some of this light here through the... No, it's not the right time to get it through the arch of the belfry, if you want to call it. Belfry is too much for that, but... Yeah, there comes the sun. That's a very nice cloud underneath as well. When we look at archaeology, we see one of the things that I've often commented with you, I think, is how this is a massive road here that goes down through the Franciscan site on the other side of the mound. And you have all these structures here, and one day they were flourishing and bustling. And then now, any building, any empire that's built is lucky if it makes it into archaeology. Because they all disappear. Things change. And sometimes we have a naive attitude that once we have fixed a situation, now we're happy. And it's going to be like that. Well, actually, no, it's going to be archaeology at the best, and otherwise it's just going to disappear. And so we're reading today from the book of Exodus, and there's a new king, and he knows nothing about the story of Joseph and his father and being sold into Egypt and rising to be one of the greatest servants of the people, and how his people became a blessing for each other. And the new emperor, the new king, doesn't know anything. It's so easy to forget history. And history is so important, especially the history of peoples and the history of families as well. It's easy for families to forget their origin, to forget their story, and that's something that has to be developed in children, because children won't understand the value of history. They'll understand the value of an ice cream. They'll understand the value that they're the ones that get to play now and they don't have to wait for the others. A little bit of history. And history can be just within one day for a child. What was the situation in the morning? What happened this morning? What promise did you make? And our own history of health issues. And sometimes we forget it and we think we own the world. To know the history of things is very important. The history of a people, a history of suffering, a history of blessing, a history of mutual help. And then with new regimes, new power plays, then we forget that and we only seek selfish interest without the connections. And our whole world needs that. Every human being needs it. We need it. I need it. Also, the history of the church. Many times there are revolutions in societies like we're going to see now in the book of Exodus, a revolution of persecution against one part of the people. A revolution of values, that one part of the people becomes a threat and needs to be kicked out. A lobbying that goes on. It's not new to humanity, it's part of the history, and therefore we need to educate each other. Many adults don't know history and they say things completely out of context. To know our roots, where we have come from. This is so important as an educational policy. And this starts with each person, and each of us to be humble enough to leave a place for history, to understand that history has a place. To be humble, simply to be humble. We didn't start the world. We don't have everything in our hands totally through pride in control of every single interest, and we don't own the world. And we can't decide the fate of peoples. We have to honor the gift of people, not determine their fate. And here we're starting the book of Exodus with this story, and the new king appears on the scene, and he knows nothing about the story of Joseph. See, this line is very instructive about how big problems rise in society through a lack of understanding, a lack of education. It's amazing how nature takes over here. And if we don't, apparently there's some major issues of connection, of the strength of connections here in the internet today, and it's cutting out on a regular basis, so be patient with this circumstance. And maybe that's what it is also in the history of humanity. We have to realize that there are a lot of connections, and we need to become patient with them and to learn them and to understand them. All the connections in nature, the connections in a business. And we tend to make unilateral decisions. And the political purpose is precisely for that, for the polis, the city, that everybody in the city speaks up, that everybody has a voice. And last week we had the memory of Saint Benedict. And one of the things that's credited by scholarship to the Benedictine community is the fact of the rule of Benedict actually contributed substantially to the development of democracy. Democracy is a Greek word, but it was an elite circle that were the ones in charge, that where everybody had a voice. It wasn't everybody, it was an elite circle who had the possibility to speak up in how the city had to be run. But in Benedict's rule, it's everybody. And even the youngest monk had the right to speak up in the chapter each week and to make observations about the life of the community. And this is very healthy. And it's been studied and shown that, or the understanding has been developed that this process in all the monasteries across Europe eventually led to the practical exercise of the value of the opinion of each person, and democracy, where the whole people contribute to the ordering of society, that we understanding in their aspect, and that we educate each other, not because I have an opinion it might be right, it might need to have a lot of other formation, a lot of other instruction, and to take up. I am to